Welcome back to the Limitless Brave Show. I have an incredible guest here for you, someone that's helped me quite a bit in my life. He's a father. He's spent time abroad in Chile, Bolivia, and Peru. He speaks fluent Spanish. He's been reading Thoreau and Emerson since high school. And one of his other big things that he likes is that he got married. And I must say, this man is a master chiropractor and movement specialist. He has helped me so many times. Please welcome Dr. Michael Tebbe.
Thanks, Dave. Happy to be here.
Yes, you have, sir. You have helped me a lot of injuries, just with my movement and everything. And I thank you every day for that.
Yeah, you're so welcome. It's been a pleasure. Yeah, it's been what, 10 years, something?
Yeah, a long time.
Working together?
A long time. Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of start when you were a little guy and work through this. And
All right.
where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Chicago area, a suburb called Northbrook.
Okay.
And, at the time I wasn't necessarily thinking about getting into this kind of field or movement stuff. I did sports, did soccer growing up, and then later in high school, wrestling. But I think even looking back, it's like movement has always been like just a big foundation.
Yep.
Some of that was, seeing my parents. God, it's like some of my earliest memories was them like stretching in the living room because they ran 15 marathons each, probably something like
wow.
that. Yeah, a lot.
Wow. Okay. So health and athletics has been a huge part of you.
Yeah, it's just something I've always been around.
Yeah.
They did judo. So it's just like something I was always seeing. Mom was always doing her aerobics classes, like
Yeah.
I think Jane Fonda stuff from the 80s.
My mom did the same stuff. So funny.
Yeah. So yeah, she'd be doing that in the living room. So it's just like something I would just be seeing all the time, like exercise and working out was just like a thing you did.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So what was childhood like? Like what were you doing as a young boy in elementary and middle school?
I mean, elementary school, some typical stuff of the time, like playing Nintendo, going out and bike riding.
Okay.
Going out in the woods sometimes, just hanging out with friends. And we did, as we got older, like 11 years old, then that's when like parents started pushing us to do, or my parents started pushing me to do like bigger hiking stuff. So
Okay.
like we hiked down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon then. And
Oh,
then
wow. At
stayed,
11?
yes.
Wow.
And then had to hike back out. Yeah. No, it was tough at 11 years old. That was one of the times when, we kept doing these big like hiking trips, and some of them were long. I think it was that same trip we did Zion, like a 16-mile hike or something like that.
Oh my God.
So it's like,
Wow.
just got used to pushing myself and just dealing with like the discomfort because, especially at that age, because you're just not very strong yet.
Sure. Yeah. Not at 11.
No.
A 16-mile hike.
You're just like, it's like, you just got to deal with it because there was no other choice.
Yeah. Wow.
There was no mule that was going to come carry me out.
Yep. Yeah. This is true.
Yeah. So,
Okay. So that's awesome. I love that your family was pushing athletics and health in a sense at such a young age.
Yeah.
So many families don't do that anymore. And
Yeah.
we see the repercussions of it today with people's health issues and
Yeah.
immobility.
And just like, even just people having exercise, whatever it is you want to do, it doesn't matter. Just having that be like a habit.
Yep.
Because, I talk to people in the practice now who were not doing anything, and now they're starting to really work out again. And I love how this guy just said it on Saturday. I'm like, well, what do you feel from just being more active? He's gotten into bodybuilding. Mm-hmm. He's like, more alive. I'm like, yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I kind of followed in your footsteps as well, with being active my whole life. Definitely been injured a lot.
Yes, you've been very active.
And yeah, you do. You feel alive. I mean, when I'm not active, I literally don't feel like myself. I feel like super subpar, not
Exactly.
like things aren't firing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, being active is super critical to mental health and physical health as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Even like early age too, just like from a nutrition standpoint, I mean, even though it was like not the correct way, but in the 80s, there was a whole like low fat craze. So, my mom got into that. And while the whole, as we know now, the whole paradigm behind that is like totally incorrect, but it's just this idea of like thinking about like food and what we're putting into our bodies. I remember doing like nutrition stuff in high school and like tracking fiber and stuff like that.
oh wow.
And I'm like, oh, I need to start thinking about like, oh, I'm way below what I should be. It's time to start eating more like carrots and stuff like that.
Okay.
So yeah, there was that too.
That's amazing that you were doing that stuff in high school. I mean, I was lifting weights and, we would talk about health and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
we'd go to the pizza shop after school and
Oh, so did I. Yeah.
devour a large pizza all on our own, So
Absolutely.
yeah, that's funny.
But yeah, there was like I think it was health class. We had to like track what we were eating and look at macros and stuff like that. Like how much protein, fiber, carbohydrates.
We never did any of that.
Yeah.
I went to like a pretty weird school, but we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. But I was glad. I mean, looking back on it at the time, it was cool. But yeah, like I said, I did soccer as a kid, junior high.
Did you play indoor as well?
No.
Okay.
Just outdoor stuff.
Okay.
Junior high. But then like getting into wrestling was a really cool thing because that different than soccer because it's like you and somebody else.
Yeah.
And like you have to start learning about like mindset and how to not just be all freaked out when you go on the mat with somebody and stay calm and so
everybody's watching you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I was taking like a brain studies class and I was talking to a teacher about that. And I'm like, how do you start like regulating your emotions when you're, going into an event? He's like, oh, think about like a boiling pot and you're just trying to like kind of maintain it as a simmer and, let it boil out of control.
That's cool.
Yeah.
He was talking about grounding those emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just on a call yesterday and I was talking about that. And it's funny that you say boiling water because I use the exact same analogy. Like we need the pot to not boil.
Yes.
Simmer.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's
And not
awesome.
be just a roiling boil. So it's like all those little, looking back, even just talking about it now, it's not stuff I really think about, but like all of it, those little things, it's just like another little building block that kind of leads you on this path of getting to where I'm at now.
So how long did you wrestle? What was wrestling like for you?
So I did that through high school, freshman through senior year. I think we did it in gym class.
Okay.
And whoever was, the PE teacher was also a wrestling coach. So, he invited us to come out and I was like, oh, this would be cool.
Yeah.
Check it out. And then from there, I liked the wrestling, it's like made great friends through that. But then that also got me into start thinking about like, well, man, to be better in wrestling, you got to get stronger. So then, I started doing kind of bodybuilding type lifting. Knowing what I know now, I would have trained totally differently, but whatever.
Yep.
But again, it was just like, okay. So then during the off season, my friends and I would be like trying to just get bigger. It's like, that was what you did in high school.
Yep.
But it's at least, it's like going to either early in the morning or in the afternoons after school, like going to the gym and lifting and working out.
Did the same thing.
Yeah.
Morning lifting, after school lifting, take a lifting class, as one of our classes.
Yeah. So it's like all that, wrestling, because you're trying to like work towards the goal of getting stronger and bigger, then, you got to work towards that goal.
That and stay as light as possible.
Yes.
So you can always wrestle down
Yes.
a weight class.
Which I did senior year.
Okay, nice. Did you do all the garbage bag running around, getting all the sweat?
It sucked.
puking out the whole 9
I
yards.
mean, I wasn't like throwing up. I wasn't necessarily do like garbage bag, but just like severe calorie restriction.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just freezing my ass off all winter.
Oh my God.
I mean, normally I'd be worried to go to school and like be inside school in the classrooms and be in a t-shirt and be fine. And I was like, t-shirt, flannel shirt, insulated flannel, like still cold.
Yeah.
Just because there was like, I was not eating enough.
Yeah. No calories.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So you didn't get in any kind of trouble in high school or anything like that?
Not really. I was pretty tame
Just
kid,
normal
yeah.
boy stuff. Like
Yeah.
nothing real crazy or anything like that.
No, nothing real crazy.
That's cool. That's cool. That's good.
Uh,
I've had some guests that have been in a lot of trouble.
oh, I'm sure. No, I went to school. Yeah, plenty of kids in my high school, but no, me and my friends were like pretty chill.
Okay. That's
We
cool.
didn't do a whole lot. Yeah.
Okay. And so as you're finishing up high school, do you already have your sights set on college? Did you know what you wanted to do? And
So,
because so many kids don't know what they want to do.
I was thinking like physical therapy, and I gotta ask myself. I honestly don't remember like why I kind of picked that. So, but at least I kind of had that as a goal. So it gave like 3 options for college. One of them being University of Iowa, which is where I went. And because now it's all doctorate of physical therapy, but at the time they had a master's of physical therapy. So then I'm like, okay, well, let's go here. And so that was the goal that I was heading towards going into that.
Okay.
Like I knew to get into the program, you needed like a crazy amount of volunteer hours, like really good grades to get into it. So, but that's what set it up. So then I got into Iowa and started there. And again, just going back to like sports, athletics, I just saw a flyer up for like the rowing team crew.
In Iowa?
Yeah, there's a
Okay.
river.
Yeah. There is one. Yeah.
And it goes right through the middle of the campus. So I was like, oh, I'll check that out. And I'm, again, so happy that I did because I didn't know anybody. There's a couple people that went to Iowa from my high school, but we weren't friends. And, it's it's like 18,000 at the time, undergrad. It's a big school.
Yeah, that is a big school.
So it's like you got to find some kind of community. And
Yeah.
definitely crew for me was that community and helped like give me an anchor.
Okay.
It's like you got to have something.
Yeah. Yep.
When you're in this like new environment.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Find your place. Find your people.
Yeah.
I think a lot of kids struggle with that these days,
Totally.
especially with the amount of screen time so many kids grow up with and
Yeah.
actually socializing properly.
Interacting.
Yeah, which is why I have a lot of clients.
Yeah.
So you found your place on the crew team.
Yeah.
Was that freshman year?
Yeah. It was right away.
Wow.
So
Okay.
yeah, it was literally like 2 weeks after starting school. I think I went to go try out and just did well at it. I definitely thank like wrestling for that because one of the things you have to do in crew is either like long endurance stuff, like 5,000 meter on the rowing machine or 2,000 meter, which is like, you're just going as hard as you can for 6 minutes. It's brutal.
Yeah.
But wrestling matches can be 6 minutes long and,
Yep.
you're just dying by the end of it.
Yep.
So it was that was a good, foundation for getting into crew. And, some of the guys who'd already been on the team were like, wow, man, like, what'd you do before this? There's just like some natural aptitude at it already.
Yeah. Okay.
Again, not like the guys from the University of Wisconsin who were like sponsored varsity sport. They're like, Nordic giants. They were all like 6'6", 230. Our club sport was more chill than that, but still, man, it's like we worked hard. It was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Very cool.
And
So-
party.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's get into some of that.
Yeah.
Because college that is the place where, I think we go from being young adults into kind of finding who we are, at least some people.
Yeah.
You know, I always talk about men kind of like leaving the family, finding themselves as who they are as their own men, and then returning back to the family as their own man, but also, you know, accepting and bringing on their family traditions as well. So, you know, you leave home, you find your place, you know, at school on the row team or on the crew team. What was life like? What was going through your head? Like, what were you any struggles, anything?
Struggles was definitely like, you know, like most college kids, like you want to meet women, have sex.
Exactly.
You know, I could interact with them. That was not one of my strong suits. So there was some of that. And then also like doing the coursework, like being a freshman, the first guy that I had a dorm room with for the first semester, he was like just partying, didn't go to class, drank, smoked pot.
One of those.
Mushrooms. So, you know, getting out of that situation, because it was like totally not positive for me, is like, you know, the first semester, I just did really poorly in school because it just wasn't a good environment.
Yep.
And it's also just like finding the new bearings in the new environment. And then, second semester freshman year, then going into that, like getting with a guy who was way more chill.
Okay.
Yeah, like school was going way better. Kind of some of the stuff that I was thinking about at the time, you know, starting to get into some of the Eastern philosophy stuff.
Okay. Yeah, because like, you were reading Thoreau and Emerson in high school.
In high school.
Okay.
So it's like that, even though at the time, for whatever reason, I just decided I didn't like the teacher, you know, so I was resisting it. But we're reading this stuff about Thoreau and Emerson, and I just remember like the quote that I put in my yearbook from Thoreau about like each man kind of finding his own path, each person really finding their own path.
Nice.
And that just really resonated with me. And I'm just like, okay, well, people are all going to be different and kind of do their own things. And just being much more, I think just learning some of that, just being more open to that. Like, you know, people are going to have their own ways of doing things, and, you know, being open to experiencing new things and new ideas and learning stuff. Definitely that foundation of like Thoreau and Emerson just helped open me up to that. And just being like, it's got to be this way, and that's it.
That's really interesting that you say that. Hey, Dave here with the Limitless Brave Show. I hope you've been enjoying the show as much as I have been enjoying making it for you. And I want to introduce our next guest. And this guest is doing some amazing stuff in the world. Please welcome Woobies. Now, I've recently partnered with this company because of their incredible mission. Their mission is to put a pair of Woobies on every homeless vet's feet. That's a huge mission, and it's one I can get behind. So guys, if you go and purchase a pair of Woobies, a homeless vet's gonna get a pair of shoes for free. And we need to help out our vets because they put their life on the line so that we can live in this incredible country. And so I was very curious about this company. I flew down to Dallas, Texas, where their headquarters is. I spent the day with the CEO, and let me tell you, these guys are on point. And not only that, it's a veteran-owned company. So it's veterans helping veterans. What an awesome mission. So these are the Mod 2s, and this is the high top version. They also make a low top version. These shoes can be worn on land and in the water. This is the official shoe of Naval Special Operations Dive School. Guys, if Special Operations is using this shoe, you can too. And so I took my Woobies to New York City recently, to Washington, D.C., and around Los Angeles. And let me tell you, they were comfortable right out of the box and something that I enjoyed wearing. They have a true paracord shoelace and a certified non-slip sole. So if you need a certified non-slip sole for your work, these are the shoes. And this is a canvas upper, and it breathes and dries really quick. So if you're in and out of the water, like I am when I'm diving, these things are awesome. They have a lot of different colorways for you to check out. So please go support their mission at woobies.com. because, we grew up in our household and we see things one way.
Totally.
And then we go to college
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, now we're thrown in with a bunch of different people that have all these different ideas of what's right in like, which is very true to what happens in the real world. And so, yeah, I went through that too. I never thought about it till you just brought that up. But yeah, like I had my ideals of like, this is the way things should be. And then I meet all these other kids who are like, no, we can do this and this. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, this is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So finding my own way as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, so then there was so part of what happened was like not doing well, kind of that first semester. I'm like, okay, well, that's making this getting into like PT school because it was like super selective. I'm like less of an option. So I'm like, okay, well, so I was kind of like, wasn't sure what I was going to do. So it's just kind of taking the gen ed stuff.
Yep.
What did I really enjoy in school? That was more like later in college. So the gen ed stuff was cool. There was a great class freshman year, but it's like a human studies class. So we were, he was teaching stuff about like the Bible, like stuff from creation, but also reading like Blade Runner and trying to figure out like what the underlying meaning of the movie was.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So
So it's
like
just
a
like
sociology kind of?
kind of. I'm trying to remember.
That's
It was a really popular class. Like people really liked it. The professor was really interesting.
okay.
Just had you like start to think deeper about stuff, not just take stuff on the superficial level, but like, okay, like what is the meaning behind this?
Okay. Was there anything that you took away from that class that you maybe use today or you remember from that class that really struck you and like, whoa, okay.
I think probably one of the biggest things is just starting to look deeper into stuff and not just take stuff at face value, but
Okay. In general.
yeah. And just like when you're reading something or even some like Eastern philosophy stuff, it's like, or even, the Bible or whatever it is your tradition, like not just take it as like a literal story, but like what is the meaning behind the story? Like what are they trying to teach you here?
Yep.
Yeah. So that was, I think, probably one of the biggest things from that class.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
And yeah, when we kept doing hiking trips in this summertime. So
Was that with family or just college friends?
No, that was still with family.
Okay.
Because summers I'd usually go home,
Okay.
work, hang out with my buddy. We go into the woods some and hang out there. Yeah. Go to the beach some, by the Lake Michigan.
Nice.
But yeah, it just gave me a whole love of like spending time in nature, which still it's
From being in school, like the fact that you had to be there and now you could leave during the summer and like, now I can finally go back to being out in nature.
yeah, and just all those trips that we did just gave me an appreciation of nature because it was all like in these national parks.
Yep.
It was a really great experience.
I think, I mean, I'm the same way, man. I love being out in the mountains, in the desert, on the river, in the ocean, wherever.
Yeah.
And we're so lucky to live here in the U.S. because it's so diverse and so beautiful.
Yeah.
And we have so many incredible parks.
Yeah.
I think it's really good for men to be out in nature,
Definitely.
interacting with that experience because it's a different energetic experience than like being in the city.
It is. And it you talked about grounding earlier. It helps ground you. When you're standing looking at a gigantic mountain, it's like all of a sudden all this bullshit in your head seems really insignificant. You're like, dude, I'm really nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, it puts the scale of us as humans into perspective. I've had that realization many times, mainly from rock climbing, right?
Totally.
You're just up there and you're like on this really difficult section and then you're like, holy shit, I'm like 300 feet off the ground. Like if I fell, like I'm done. I'm so insignificant.
Yeah.
So that's a really good point that you bring up there too, is getting out in nature and seeing how awesome and large it is compared to us.
Yeah.
And that shifts the perception.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah.
It helps you just let go of yourself some and not get all in your own head, which is
Yeah.
as guys. I mean, people in general.
Yep.
You know, we all have a habit of doing, you know, like camping out under the stars is another great one. Like, and when permissible, you're not going to get eaten a lot by bugs or
Yep.
some animal.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just getting to sleep under the stars and look up at them.
Yep.
I think we're really missing that as humans, because think about how long of our human history, like, that's what we looked at.
Yeah.
There was no TV, there's no lights.
Yeah. It was the stars was
Yeah.
the entertainment at that point in time. It was our navigational aids,
Yeah.
everything. And so the sky is definitely, and it's funny, I never thought about it that way. The sky is definitely some incredible entertainment. I know, when Anna and I go out to Death Valley and just
man.
lay out there, that's a certified dark sky park, and just look at the stars. And it's like, wow,
It's incredible.
you just don't even realize how many there are.
Yeah.
It is,
Yeah.
it is awesome.
It is. It is.
Okay, so that was freshman year.
Yeah. So freshman, sophomore years, I'm like more of the same. Living with my buddies, going out, drinking on the weekend.
Nice. Just partying, doing like normal college kid stuff.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Chasing girls around.
Yep. Yep. But then sophomore year, one of the guys on the crew team, he had just come back from being in Scotland for a year. And he's like, man, you got to go do this. And he and I weren't like really good friends or anything, but I was like, yeah, I should look into that. For whatever reason, it just seemed like a good idea.
So what did he want you to do?
Study abroad.
Oh, study abroad. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Because he had just come back from doing that and was like just sharing about his experience. And I was like, oh, I should go look into that. So I went and talked to the counselor, and he had done a year. He's like, do a year. He's like, no, do a semester. And so I went and talked to the counselor who does stuff for study abroad. And she's like, listen, you're already studying Spanish, so go somewhere that speaks Spanish. Your options, kind of like the school, whoever they had the association with, it's like Chile was an option or Costa Rica. And she's like, if you want to spend that long there, she's like, go to Chile. It's just a bigger country and less people speak English. So you're really going to have to like
Work.
Yeah, and learn
And
the language.
Chile's a favorite country of mine.
It's amazing.
It is.
Yeah. I mean, Chile, it's a pretty fascinating place. It's like California, but flipped over.
Yep.
So it's super dry in the north, and then in the south, you start getting into lakes and forests and plenty of mountains.
Yeah.
It's a really beautiful place. I mean, just incredible.
It is incredible, and the people are incredible.
Yeah.
Except for the people that robbed me. But yeah, it's a fantastic country.
That happened, yeah.
It's just super beautiful.
So, yeah, so I was like, all right. I'm like, I'll go to Chile.
And was this your first international experience going to Chile?
We spent like 2 weeks with my family in Germany and like Switzerland.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And, it was cool. That was the most rain Europe had had in like 100 years. So kind of limited some of like the hiking we wanted to do.
Yeah.
I mean, it was still an enjoyable trip. Just getting to see a new place. But definitely like Chile was like a whole nother thing, because then it's like I'm on my own.
Yep.
And staying with a Chilean family, and just having to like navigate, like being on my own in another city.
Yeah.
And like,
And another country that you do not speak the language really.
yeah, not very well.
Yeah.
You
So
know.
I have a question for you about Chile. And this is an experience that I have when I go there. I feel like the energetics of Chile is really weighted and very grounded and solid.
Yeah.
I don't know if you feel that or not, but I've felt that in New Zealand. I felt that in Chile.
At the time, because I was 19, 20 years old at the time, what I remember coming back to the States, like as soon as my friend and I landed in New York, before we parted ways, we were both like, fuck this place. We were ready to get back on the plane and turn around and come back. Because just like, I don't know, it's just like we got in New York and the security and everything, they were just like, people were just kind of dicks. And
Yeah.
And I just remember, I'm like, yeah, I kind of want to go back. So, yeah, I mean, looking back on it at the time, I don't know, there's just, people just seem to enjoy stuff more, not so serious, not so wrapped up into like materialism and consumerism. And it was just fun. There's a little like more joy, I would say,
Yeah.
that they had.
I agree with you 100%. And there's one driver I work with down there all the time, and he speaks very little, if no English, and that's the equivalent of my Spanish. But we have a great time together.
Yeah.
And even some of the guys that I've taken down there, like going on some of the trips we go on, they're just like, you two don't even speak each other's language and have a blast. And we do, and it's just fun.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah,
nice.
such great people. Great
Yeah,
people.
totally. So that was awesome. So again, we did a lot of nature stuff there too,
Okay.
because the people that I became friends with, there was like 50 of us that were from the States, from all over the States.
Okay. And this was like an actual study abroad program.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you were there for a year,
Yeah.
just in Chile.
Yeah. So it's 9 months
Okay.
in Santiago, Chile.
Oh, nice.
And it was cool how they had the program set up, because we basically went to school from like Monday to Thursday, and then you'd have like Friday, Saturday, Sunday off.
Okay.
So the first semester we did just spend a lot of time in the city, just, partying, having fun.
Sure.
And then second semester, my friends and I would like every weekend, it's a wonderful thing about Chile, which you don't have here. Like, they have like 10, 15 different bus lines.
Yeah.
And that's how people get around the country.
Yes. That's
Yeah,
very true.
Air travel you could do it, but bus was just like super easy and super affordable, at least for us, because we had dollars. So we'd just go somewhere every weekend. Sometimes it'd be a beach town, sometimes it'd be up in the mountains.
What were some of your favorite adventures while you were in Chile?
Man, so like we went up to the north. So we had like a week-long break, basically spring break. So there was 8 of us total that rented like a Toyota kind of minivan thing.
Nice.
And we just packed threw all our stuff. They had a huge rack on the top of it. So we drove like all over the whole north, and we probably covered 4,000 miles or something like that.
Wow.
Maybe it was a little bit less, but it was a lot of territory. So, we got to go up to in northern Chile, as it's starting to go into Bolivia and then Peru, there's this whole region called the Altiplano, which just means like high plain. And it's like 10, 11, 12, 13,000 feet.
Dave here with the Limitless Brave Show. And gentlemen, this one's for you. Are you struggling with your dating life, or maybe your relationships? Possibly the marriage is on the rocks. Maybe you're having a difficult time making money. What about your health? Is that good, or is it in poor repair? And maybe you've tried everything you know how to do to climb that corporate ladder, but you're still not getting anywhere. Or if you're finished with the corporate world, you've been hesitant on starting that new business. Or maybe you just do not feel confident taking on one of the most unique roles we have as men, and that is being the protector. Guys, for the past 15 years as my full-time career, I've been coaching men all over the world on those topics and how to rise above everything that's holding them back to get that amazing dream life. I've been helping men understand the art of living masculine for a very long time, and I would love to help you. I have a very simple, nurturing, 0 to hero philosophy when it comes to working with me. It's not anything difficult. It's not anything hard. It's not abusive. It's just common knowledge that I love to share with men to get their minds switched on in the right direction so that they can go out and live an amazing life that every man should. If you want to know more about this, check me out at limitlessbrave.com. Get signed up to my email list, and we'll be in touch.
So we were up there checking out some hot springs, and then one of the really cool things was like driving up this super sketchy, like it wasn't even a road basically. Like how this car got up there, I don't know. But then like there's nothing, and we're on this huge plain looking at the mountains in the distance, and you get to see a thunderstorm starting to roll in.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's like super clear air, unobstructed view, and just like watching this thunderstorm roll in. It's just incredible.
That's awesome.
You know, as you're driving back down, it's like starting to pour. You're like, oh crap, are we gonna get back down?
Yeah.
But that
Is that the Atacama Desert?
it's still further north of that.
That's
But we
okay.
we stopped there as well.
Okay.
And the Valle de la Luna,
Okay.
which is, the Valley of the Moon, which because it's just like nothing. There's nothing out there.
Yeah.
Very, if any, plant life. That's why they call it the moon. Yeah, we got to spend time like hiking out there, which is just pretty amazing, like desolate desert.
Yeah, I haven't been to the northern part. I've spent a lot of time in the far south of Chile.
Yeah.
Doing the same thing. We rented a truck. My buddy spent 10 years down there ski guiding and working. And so he's from Oregon and he speaks fluent Spanish, knows everyone in the south of Chile. And so we're just cruising around wherever, just taking this road here and there. And it was just an awesome adventure.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it.
Seeing lakes and the mountains and
Yeah, we went and surfed, or I attempted to surf. He surfed.
nice.
I got pummeled a lot.
Yeah.
It's freezing cold water down there.
Yeah.
Because it's coming off of Antarctica. But the waves were amazing. It was just awesome to be in the ocean that time of year in the winter. And yeah, just beautiful experiences, local hospitality, local food. Just we were no place developed at all. Man, it was an incredible adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very cool. That's awesome, man. It's so funny. I didn't know you did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we got to do some stuff in the South too the first semester as well. That was like a school kind of sponsored trip. But it's also like, just getting to explore and see lakes and different cultural stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we got to do a lot of really cool stuff.
Were you ever there during their, I think it's in September 5th?
Yeah.
And I'm probably wrong, like their Independence Day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were there during that time because those were like holidays for us.
Yeah.
So we'd either stay in the city or like go out, like, I don't know, it was like a 4-hour bus ride away, and then you can go out into the mountains there. Yeah.
Did you ever go to any of the festivities that they have?
Yeah. More the stuff that stands out because at that time, Pinochet, who was the military dictator for years, he left to Spain and they were trying to get him back into Chile. And then there started being like protests and stuff in the street. And so then we would go like check out some of that stuff. And that was like pretty wild.
I'm sure.
Water cannons, tear gas.
Yeah, I'm sure. Oh my God.
People were they were pissed.
Yeah. And it's still a lot of that stuff goes on there, even current day. I have my Chilean friends and, we talk politics sometimes and they get fired up, which, rightfully so for some of the stuff. But yeah, I was there for their Independence Day and I went to this small town and all the cowboys were like riding their horses in the road and their horses were all done up and we went to like this little concert and they had all the food out. Just different vendors there.
Yeah.
Everything like traditional music. Oh man, it was awesome. It was so cool.
Yeah. No, we got to do some of that very traditional stuff as well. Like learning the Chilean dance, the cuenca.
Yeah, they were doing that too. I went to another town during that same day that was like a beach.
Spinning the handkerchiefs.
Yeah, they were doing all of that. I was like, what is this? And it was awesome to see.
Yeah. That was really cool.
Yeah.
But at the time, like even just reading Narcissus, like Herman Hesse books, like Narcissus and Goldmund, and then Siddhartha, all that stuff, you're getting exposed to that kind of Eastern tradition, kind of letting go of the ego. So just, even at that time, I was just kept being exposed to that kind of stuff that like Thoreau and Emerson talked about. And it's always been something that's just been super attractive for me. And figuring out how to just be more centered, be more at peace, be one with everything.
Yeah, exactly. Some of the Eastern philosophy is really powerful when you dig into it and implement it in an appropriate way. And, as crazy as the U.S. is sometimes, it is nice to remind yourself that, hey, I don't have to react to this stuff if I don't want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't let it rule your life, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really, there's some really amazing teachings there.
Yeah. No, and that's just, again, going back to being grounded. That's like implementing that stuff and thinking about it is how you start to be more grounded.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's amazing what the mind can get the body to do.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
So you spend a year down there in Chile,
Yeah.
having a blast, obviously. You went to Bolivia and Peru. Was that during your time there, or were these separate?
So as we were wrapping up school, my friend Shane, he was thinking like, oh, I want to travel back to the States by land. I'm like, oh, that sounds like a cool idea. So
But
we
didn't consider the Darien Gap?
no, I mean, that's stuff, of course our parents were like, no, you can't do that. There was one other guy that came with us. So anyways, like, so we started like just by land, started heading up there. And then we ended up in La Paz, Bolivia.
Okay.
And Shane's like a good family friend of theirs, a German expat actually, who was a photographer, super interesting guy.
Okay.
We were staying with him. We spent like 3 weeks with him. And he was like, listen, he's like, because he wasn't our parents, so we actually listened to him. He's like, if you guys had a bunch of time, I would say do it. But in terms of you don't have a lot of time, you're just going to be going to get all the way back to the States by land. He's like, spend time in Bolivia and Peru. Because you're going to have, that's like culturally, there's some of the richest countries there still. Like
Traditionally rich?
yeah, because of like, the Incan culture was like so big. Like Quechua was also like native tribe. I think it's called Aymara. There was just like so many native tribes. Like they're still archaeologically, they still find a lot of stuff there. Like a lot of the languages, at least back then, that was 20 some years ago. Like when you go out into the villages, like you'll find people that don't even speak Spanish still.
Oh, wow. They're still speaking.
They're still speaking like the native
Incan
tongue.
or the native.
Incan, yeah, Quechua, Aymara, and whatever it was.
Wow.
So that was cool. So we were just like doing hiking stuff in Bolivia. And again, that was just like more spending time in nature, backpacking, getting used to like being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because we were doing stuff at like high altitude. Like one of the trips that my friend and I did, we were trying to we had this guidebook and he's like, oh, you can hike from here to here. But there's like it's not like the US. There's no trails.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we didn't do it. We just gotten lost in the mountains somewhere, disappeared. But we kept we'd just camped basically in the middle of like a field, and there was like some farmer over there. So we'd like hike off one day and then come back, and then hike off another day and then come back. But it was 11,000 feet, and it was like cold, dude.
Yeah.
It got really cold at night. I mean,
sure.
Everything would just frost over.
Yep.
So we would sleep outside and somehow stay warm. But yeah, dude, just like the full moon coming up.
Yeah.
When you're at 11,000 feet, it's just incredible.
It's a different experience.
Yeah. But you're just get used to being cold all the time and hungry.
Yeah.
And one of the funny stories from that is like we were talking to one of the guys who like lived out there, and he's like, it's so funny like how in being exposed to like a different perspective of how much like spirit world is like a much bigger part for them still.
Oh yeah, of the culture there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's like, he's like kind of asking us, he's like, how are you guys staying warm? He's like, I think the devil is keeping you warm.
Really?
Yeah, that's literally what he said. Because he's like,
Wow.
how are you guys staying warm out, like camping out? They're in their house and probably a little fire going.
Yeah.
We have no fire and
Yeah.
just our sleeping bags and a tent.
Yeah.
This is funny.
Yeah, that's really interesting that you bring that up, because I've run into that in a couple different cultures.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. And, I think that was such a bedrock of kind of going back to like masculinity. Robert Bly talks about this. The Iron...
Was it Iron John?
Iron John, exactly, yeah. you know, about how, you know, we had all these traditions for men and women that helped kind of initiate us, like around the time of puberty,
Yep.
to help transition from like boyhood to manhood. And
Yep.
there was like a lot of myth and stories and stuff that helped us make our transition, and we don't have that anymore.
No, we don't. And you know, the work that I do, it simulates a little bit of that
Yeah.
for some guys.
Yeah.
To know that, okay, now I can handle all of these things that I'm perceiving impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the only current day experience of that is the military.
Yeah.
You know, is that okay? Yeah, you're a boy. Like, all right, now it's time to be a man. Like,
Yeah.
we're going to war, kind of thing. That's the only thing that I can think of. Maybe some college sports.
Maybe.
You know,
Yeah.
it's just, I've thought about this a lot. I'm like, wait, where are these rituals? You know, that
Yeah.
we used to have.
I know. No, I think, and on the level of men, and also just like generally, I think it's something that's really missing from current society, because we don't really have anything to anchor to. So
Yep.
what people kind of default to is like acquiring more crap
Yep.
to try to like fill that void.
Racing into the future, the new thing, the new
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
and not fully experiencing what's present here now.
Yeah.
Yep. No, I agree with you 100% on that.
Yeah. So
I mean, I'm not anti-material possession. That's for sure. Not, that's for sure. But you know, that old saying, you know, what you own owns you,
Yeah.
is very true. And you know, kind of before I woke up, so to speak, a little bit, you know, I was feeling that. I'm like, I have all these things, which wasn't a lot of anything, honestly. But it was consuming my time to, like, you know, maintain my motorcycles and make sure like all my climbing gear and my kayak gear and my bikes and all this stuff was taken care of. And I was like, I spend more time almost, I feel like, working on this stuff and preparing it than I actually do
enjoying it.
enjoying it.
Yeah.
And so that's when that hit me. That hit me like really hard. I think that I think I was reading Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that's like when that kind of like, I was like, oh, hey, I had this epiphany. So yeah, I mean, I love minimalism. I don't like to have a lot of things. I'd like to have my gear to do my sports, and like,
Yeah.
I'd like to keep it low key.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. That's why I like kettlebell training. One of the reasons is
Yeah, that's right. I forgot. You
Yeah.
love kettlebells. I have not done any true kettlebell work, but it's an awesome
Yeah.
workout for sure.
but it's just nice. You can throw it in the car and go to a park or wherever.
Yep.
Doesn't take up much space. You know, it's easy.
Yeah. No, they're amazing. So you hang out in Bolivia, you go hiking.
Spend a month there. Yeah.
You go to Peru then?
We go to Peru. We check out like Cusco,
go to-
Machu Picchu.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you go to Machu Picchu?
Yeah.
Nice.
Did that, spent time in Lima, did some like cool, like a long backpacking trip, like 7 days.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I'm like up in the Andes in kind of more central Peru near a town called Huaraz. But that was also like, you know, that experience just like teaches you to handle, like taught me, one of the things it taught me is just to handle just discomfort for just long periods of time.
Yep.
I mean, because there's only so much food you can carry. I think after the first day, we never got below 11,000 feet. During this like 7-day trek, I think we crossed like 7 or 8 passes.
Wow.
So then you'd be 11 up to 15 and then back down again. You know, you're carrying 45 pounds on your back.
Nope.
It was hard.
Yeah.
Just hungry. It got cold at night.
That adversity and that challenge really builds the masculine in men.
Definitely.
And
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons I've always wanted to challenge myself, is because I always saw it as growth, and always, you know, was curious if I could complete whatever the mission was, so to speak, or the experience. And yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
No, and it's like really a big part of life too. It's like, learning stuff it's just not an easy process, and it's frustrating. Even just looking back on, where my skills were at as a chiropractor coming out of school, then meeting my second mentor in like 2016, like just how much practice it takes to like get good at something. Like it just sucks for a while. You just got to go through it and learn and put in the time.
Yeah, it's very true. And one thing about you, from a client perspective, is that you're always evolving.
Yeah.
Every time I come to see you, you're like, oh, I got this new thing. Let's try this. Let's work on this. And it's just amazing.
Thanks, man.
Absolutely amazing. So you go spend your year abroad. You come back. This is what, junior year now or senior year?
So that was junior year of college.
Okay.
And so that built the foundation of learning Spanish. So then I just ended up majoring in that.
Okay.
Come back. It was definitely like, it took me a few months, I think, just to kind of get back to living back into Iowa, because like my best friend from sophomore year, we still hung out, but it was just like different.
Sure. You've had different experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was hanging out with a bunch of Spaniards who were getting their master's degree. Yeah, and also just spending a lot of time on my own too.
Yeah.
At the time.
I was recently in Iowa. I can't imagine coming from like Chile, Bolivia, and Peru for a year into Iowa and be like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was interesting. Yeah, I was like totally ready to leave. So then I'm like doing my senior year, having a lot of fun, like studying Spanish, like South American, Spain literature, reading short stories. Like there's just some like fascinating, like something I wish I could do more of in English and Spanish, is just like reading more like literature and short stories, because there's just like so much depth to all that stuff that like we just don't get to experience as much as I think would benefit us all. But anyways, getting to do all that, taking a yoga class, again, that's getting more back into like we read the Bhagavad Gita in a yoga class. It was a very different from like LA yoga, where it's like just a workout.
Wow.
They were like way more talking about like the spiritual aspect of yoga.
Sure. Yeah.
And like why you do the physical stuff.
Were they discussing like a lot of the postures to trigger the emotional release of?
They didn't get into that so much, but just like yoga as a practice of like spiritual development.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's more of the spiritual teachings.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. So they like got into like defining it. So they were both, there was a couple, and they had spent a lot of time in India and really dove into yoga for yoga.
Yeah. For the real deal.
Yeah. And I think we were doing like hatha yoga or something at the time. But thanks to being in there, then I was asking them if they knew of a chiropractor. Even though I'd heard like negative things about it, I'd heard something like mixed. One guy in the crew team said a negative thing about it, and then my buddy went and saw one in Chicago area, and he like loved it.
Yeah, people do have. I think people are very divided about chiropractic.
Yeah, yeah.
It's interesting.
It's interesting. It is,
and I can see why. Having worked with you and having worked with others, I can see why they have that division and why they have that opinion. Working with someone like you would change everybody's opinion of chiropractics.
Yeah.
I promise. I mean, it's completely different than anything I've ever experienced. And so that's my pump you up kind of thing.
Yeah, thank you.
And the work with your practice that you do, because it's just not like your normal chiropractic experience.
Yeah. Thank you. So was it? Yeah. So I asked them, I'm like, oh, do you guys know of a chiropractor? And they're like, oh, we've heard this guy is good. So I called out, it's like, it's just like a nice, again, one of those things where like life, providence, maybe deeper soul stuff, just kind of guiding you.
Yep.
And being willing to follow. So I talked to him on the phone. He was like, even just really cool and engaged on the phone, the guy. And he's like, oh, I love meeting new people. So I went and saw him, and he was explaining chiropractic to me. I'm like, okay, getting this joint, pinched nerve. I'm like, it makes sense. But I got adjusted and I walked home and then I bent down to like just pick something up off the floor. And again, I wasn't going in with like a major issue. Like my hip felt weird and my shoulder was like tight. But dude, it's like just the ease. I'm like blown away, like blew open my mind. I was like, what the fuck? Like it's so easy to bend down. Like, I mean, my spine can move so much better.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't know it was like that tight. So
we don't.
yeah. So that was like really powerful experience. And then I talked to him some more and then so that brought me back to like this physical therapy, chiropractic, you know, he's like, no man, go chiropractic school. So thanks to him, thanks to Dr. Jason Bradley. He definitely planted the seed.
Okay. I'm glad he
doing
did.
it. Yeah. And it was like, there's just a great timing because prior to talking to him, I looked into I was like, oh, maybe I'll teach Spanish, you know, in high school. And then I went and talked to the education department. They're like, oh, it's another 2 years of school. I'm like, oh, I can't spend another 2 years here. So I'm like, that's off the table.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what planted the seed. And I'm really thankful to him for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so, did you do your Doctor of Chiropractics in Iowa?
No. So I finished up school, spent a year at home, just kind of working and doing stuff.
Yep.
In between finishing up at Iowa, which is 2000, I was going to go meet my friend Shane, who I traveled with for those 3 months, like Bolivia and Peru, to go meet up with him again and hang out. He had to leave right away, so then I was on my own there for 3 months.
Okay.
So I'd met Peruvians on the previous time because since we spent a lot of time in like certain places and made friendships. So then I got to like do a bunch of stuff in Peru and it was pretty awesome. Like,
oh, cool. So you went back down to Peru.
yeah,
Nice.
I got to spend another 3 months down there.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, it was great. And I'm really grateful for that because it really made me like solidify the foundation of Spanish. Like I could speak it okay, but then like I had to speak it because I was by myself and there was nobody to speak English with.
Okay.
So yeah, it really helped. And now it's just, you know, getting to hang out and spending time in beach towns, going to the high jungle of Peru, which is just incredible.
Yeah, the beach towns down there are fantastic.
Yeah, they are. The high jungle was like, that was probably one of the most amazing experiences. And one quick thing was like being on a river and they'd warned us, they're like, people have drowned in these rivers, so like just pay attention. And I'm laying on a rock like out in the river, and all of a sudden thankfully I was like awake and I heard that water start to change pitch. And I look and like literally just quickly the water level's rising. I'm like, fuck, I gotta get out of here.
Wow.
It literally tripled in volume in like a minute.
Wow.
The river. It was nuts. Cause it's like it's just raining somewhere and then all of a sudden like all this water dumps into the river.
Okay.
Yeah, like this family they got separated from each side of the rivers. Like the kids over on one side freaking out, crying. You know, it's going to be like a 3-hour drive to get over there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, until the river goes back down. Yeah, it was a trip.
Yay, hydrology. Oh, wow.
So that was like another thing of just like respecting nature. And then we also went out into the kind of jungle area and seeing like those spiders that build like kind of into a hole into the dirt, you know, killing an ant and throwing it on there. And then the spider darts out, grabs it. You're like, wow.
Wow.
And then seeing like a grasshopper. Dude, it's like it's not just like the grasshoppers you see around here.
Yeah.
Like when they open its wings, it's like bright red underneath. And then like University of Michigan colors, like that yellow and blue.
Yeah.
Like stripes on his legs, alternating stripes.
Wow.
You're just like, dude, this is fascinating. This is pretty wild. I like seeing that.
Yeah, I'm sure. What other creatures did you see there?
Well, we ate guinea pig, which is
Oh, interesting. Okay.
that's what they eat a lot in Peru.
Yeah, a lot of guinea pigs, huh?
Yeah. So we would eat that. What are the kind of crazy? Oh, the leaf cutter ants.
Okay.
they would, they are the ones that just chop up leaves in little bits.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we were somewhere and you just see this trail of them, like just carrying leaves, want to do their things.
Oh, okay.
It was pretty fascinating, man.
And that was all in the high jungle, right?
Yeah, so it's not like Amazon basin yet.
Okay.
So you're still like probably 3,000 feet, but it's dropping down into the Amazon. So still like very lush.
Okay.
They get rain.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah,
Oh, that's awesome, man.
that's pretty wild.
Yeah, I definitely want to get down there into that area,
Yeah.
check out some of the jungle. Have yet to do that.
Yeah. And then doing stuff like in South Peru, like near Arequipa, me and this Austrian guy, like we hiked down. There's like this area where the river splits and it's like deep canyons. And basically the trail is just switchbacks down like 3 miles.
Wow.
You're probably, I think it was like 3.5, like 3,500 feet or something like that. Just hiking down. That was it. But you look and there's like a tiny oasis. This is just super dry. And there's this like tiny green dot oasis, and as you get closer and closer, it expands. And there's water that just comes out of the rock, and they've filtered it, like kind of channeled it, and they have like a pool there. There's a little like campground.
Okay.
And then there's a river like 200 feet below that. But I remember I was like hanging out down there. I was like, this is like so cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like so at peace,
Yep.
no electricity.
Yeah.
It was pretty amazing.
Just getting back to that kind of like primal feeling as a
Yeah.
guy without all the luxuries that we have.
Yeah. And again, just going back into that, it's like kind of spiritual, mythological stuff. This guide took us to a hike to see this waterfall. And he was again, like, he's like, tell that guy like not to get too close to the waterfall. I'm like, how come? He's like, we got to keep an eye on him. I'm like, why? He's like, oh, there's sirens, like, from Odysseus.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
He's like, they will sing to him and like snatch him away. I'm like, really?
You're like, I almost want to sacrifice this to see this.
So it was like so cool, like how that, there's just this reverence for nature and the spirit world that,
Interesting.
we just don't have in like traditional Western society. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. He was such a fascinating guy. He's like 50-some years old. We're on these like narrow trails. And if you fall off the trail, you're going to fall.
Yeah.
It's not going to be good.
Yeah.
And dude, he was just like little and just so nimble. We're like 20-some-year-old dudes and we were like slipping every so often. Dude, never missed a step. Was just like a goat, basically,
Wow.
on this. But that's like, he just grew up there.
Yeah.
Like that was his life. There was never concrete.
Yeah. Just normal.
Yeah. Wearing the tire sandals.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's incredible.
Yeah, dude. It was so cool, like getting to see and experience these people. But again, he spoke Spanish, but he also spoke, I think it was Aymara.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just cool.
That's awesome, man. Wow. What a cool experience.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's you don't hear too many people having an experience like that.
Yeah. No, I'm really grateful that I was able to take advantage of that, and that my parents had the resources to help support it, like sending me down there. And
Sure.
I think I'd saved up some money working. You don't need to spend much money, especially then. You didn't need to spend much money at all.
No. What, 20 years ago down there? No,
Yeah.
definitely not.
I mean, you could stay for cheap,
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
a couple bucks a night.
Yep.
It wasn't nice, but it worked.
Roof over your head.
Yeah. So came back, worked some, and then after like a year of that, of being kind of staying at home, I was like, okay, it's time to move. So my brother's like, oh, come out to LA. So I came out here. So that was 2001. And then 2000, right away, I'm like kind of figuring out a job. And I'm like, okay, I need to go to school. So then I figured out, okay, I can take my prereqs pretty quickly. I can get them all knocked out in like 9 months and just take them at the campus where the chiropractic school is.
Yep.
I worked at the hospital here in LA called St. John's, and that worked out really well. I just do like 3 12-hour shifts, doing administrative stuff, and then I'd have time to go to school on the weekends and still have a little bit of free time.
Nice.
So it worked out well. In 2003, I just started school there. And getting into school, then I started I should backtrack a little bit, like going back into movement and the foundation of all that stuff. Like my brother had been getting into Tai Chi and like Kung Fu, so he'd been showing me some of that stuff already. And then like just from doing yoga. So then I was like starting to get into that. So when I moved out to LA, then started studying with the same teacher. So we were doing like standing stuff, like just standing in a certain posture.
Okay. With the Tai Chi, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
But while you're standing, you're thinking about like sitting down, standing up. Like if somebody's trying to pull you, you're resisting that.
Did you ever get into the push hands?
A little bit. Yeah, we did
okay.
some of that stuff too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that guy, Jaden Lewis, as far as I know, still in LA. He was like really incredible guy. Had some gymnastics, piano, like really high level piano player.
Amazing.
Yes. But then also like from a young age, it started studying this like martial arts stuff. And like, dude, you would spend like hours standing, you know, dude, and you're like, your legs are shaking. So just like developing a strong mental fortitude. So, and then getting into chiropractic school, like you start, some of the first things you do is like start evaluating posture. So you have to stand in front of like 70 of your classmates and they're saying, oh yeah, his shoulder's higher, his head's forward. So then it starts making you think about like, oh, I want to start changing this stuff. Taking a biomechanics class, like, you know, this is the way, you know, move with your hips, not with your back. Like learning about that stuff. You know, this wasn't something I'd thought about. So like I totally took those lessons in. I'm like, well, I'm going to take care of my body. And I'm like, you know, we're getting this opportunity to learn this stuff, like apply it to ourselves, not just the people we're going to work with.
Yeah, exactly.
And okay, but just like chiropractic school, man, it was just like a great fit. Like I was just super, it was the first time in my life, like I'd always done decently in school, but then when you choose to go, it's not just kind of like the thing, the next step, you know, all through grade school, high school, it's like you go to school because you have to go to school.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even colleges, it was a little bit like that too, because like that's just, you know, you go to college after high school. But then when you're like choosing to do it, it's like you're way more invested and like, you just take it way more seriously.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
And it's fun.
Yeah. It's because like you're making the decisions now. You're feeling like the power behind the decision and where it's going to take you. And so, no, I totally get that, man. Absolutely. Yep.
And I think even just like, you know, for guys and just people in general, like, you know, kind of like really taking an active kind of role of thinking about like, what do I want to achieve? And, you know, and then just putting the energy into it.
Yeah, that's the difficult part, I think, with a lot of people, at least a lot of the guys I work with. It's, you know, they have a goal, but it's almost like a fantasy to them. It's not even anything achievable. Then they won't even take that one step required to start that journey. And I mean, it comes down to the consistency to be successful.
Definitely. So, yeah. So they would like, I got my nickname in school as Tai Chi Tebbe because I'd be doing standing stuff.
Tai Chi Tebbe.
Yeah. It was fun.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So school was just a lot of like learning those foundations. Probably one of the best classes I took was like the rehab class because the woman who taught that had studied with this guy who's, as far as I know, he's still in LA, Craig Liebenson. So then I started getting exposed to all this stuff beyond adjusting of like how to use exercises to like strengthen the body and like why you do it, like different perspectives on like looking at the bigger picture of movement. So like kind of, not to harp on physical therapists, but even chiropractors, people in the movement world, it's like, oh, you got a shoulder injury. It's like, focus on the shoulder and then do shoulder rehab. But it's like, okay, why did the shoulder injury happen in the first place? Like, where is the breakdown? like starting to look at how do they balance on one leg compared to the other, like how is the core working or not working. So I'm so grateful for that class. And then I got to spend time with Craig Liebenson during school and then after school of like applying, using exercises to help like change people's movement and looking at like this term functional exercises, meaning like how does the human body move and how can you get it to get back into those like ways of moving
that are correct movement.
Yeah. That help protect your body, but you're also you're much more powerful, stronger, and you'll protect yourself at the same time. So yeah, so she got into that class. So then like I met with her after class and like invested some time and money with working with her, because I was like, okay, when I'm doing dips, like my shoulder will get tight. Like, what can I change? How can I start working on this? And like learning how to use a foam roller to help increase mobility of the mid back, and you know what core exercises to do. So I think I've always been wanting to take all this stuff that I'm learning and also like apply it to myself, kind of using myself as a laboratory.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, okay, well, if this works for me, like what are the common themes with every other human out there? You know, what can I learn from myself and apply it to them as well?
Yeah, and you do a great job of that with your newsletter.
Thanks.
You know, you're not telling people what to do in your newsletter. You're actually showing them what to do and the benefits of it in the proper movement, the improper movement. It's really fantastic.
Yeah. And there's just like, you know, stuff about moving is like, it really helps us in so many ways, as we've already talked about.
Yeah. And the other thing is, people aren't even aware of their incorrect movements.
Yeah.
Until somebody shows you that it's not moving properly. And I have experienced that firsthand with you. And you're just like, no, dude, you're not moving the right way. It needs to move like this. You'll do some adjustments, some manipulation. We've done everything from like Cold's laser to like tuning forks to like different lasers. And I mean, and then it starts moving the way it's supposed to. And I'm like, oh my God, okay. Yeah, it wasn't moving right.
Yeah.
So I see, you know, working with you, I do see a lot of people moving incorrectly. Now, I can't catch it on the level that you can, but yeah, it's very, very true. And it causes a lot of issues in people's bodies. Like
it does.
I mean, I've seen firsthand the issues it's caused with my father and the work you've done and how quickly and he's changed. It's awesome.
No, I remember that first time we worked on his feet. It was crazy. Yeah. I wish we had photos of that. Like just the way they looked color-wise was a trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were like almost black, and then boom, you did all your adjustments and moved, and his ankle's like doing what it's supposed to do. And then they returned to like a normal color.
I know, it was crazy.
And then he's like, oh yeah, they've been like that for years. It's just like, man, come on.
Yeah.
But your dad and my dad are pretty stubborn.
Yeah. Yeah. But kind of getting back into movement. So, you know, that rehab class really taught me about like the powers of rehab. But then later on, working with, you know, I got really into adjusting and getting better at it. Really with my mentor in, that was 2016, Leonard Fay. Man, like just really, we learned this stuff in school, but maybe we just weren't ready to see the bigger picture of it. Mm-hmm. But he helped me really understand like how the body's all connected, and how like, even if somebody has no problems in their foot, like this hip problem, you got to check and see what's moving, what's not moving. And it's probably like for a patient recently, it's like, I'm like, your hip pain isn't your hip. I'm like, your hip joint is actually moving okay. I get it, you have pain there. And I'm like, it's your foot. I'm like, feel this, it doesn't move. And they're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm like, you sprained your ankle 20 years ago And yes, the pain went away, but it never got back to like normal.
Yep.
And
Guilty as charged.
yeah. So then, like, you have to do, so I mean, it's like one piece of advice for people is like find a good kind of body worker person. It can be somebody that does rolfing, it can be somebody that does a great PT, it could be a great chiropractor. But as you're getting into movement stuff, you got to get your body unlocked too, because not doing that kind of work, you can do the rehab stuff and try to like practice the proper movement patterns, but it's like you're trying to run uphill carrying rocks. Like you're gonna make progress, but it's like really hard.
Yeah.
And there's just gonna be roadblocks you're gonna hit that it doesn't matter how much effort you put into it. Like you got to get worked on, because as soon as you get stuff unlocked, it's like you can just leapfrog.
That is 100% true, and I've experienced it myself.
Yeah.
You know,
I know you've done lots of different kind of body work. And
yeah, a ton of different stuff. Right?
Yeah.
And working with you has been the best experience, honestly. You know, and even just moving into the weight training stuff that I'm doing now, I've come back to see you recently, and you're like, damn, your hips are like working the way they're supposed to now.
Yeah.
You know, and it was all of that work that you had done ahead of the time mixed with what I'm doing now, and it's just like, it's a night and day difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, you know, I know you're going to be doing a workshop about getting back into your body and learning how to do that. But yeah, I mean, for everybody listening out there, like just start, you know, moving. You know, my channel, if you look up Michael Tebbe DC, I'll put stuff in the notes.
Yep.
You know, that's a place you can start doing stuff. Like you can just start exploring range of motion, joint mobility, you know, strengthening the core. There's another guy, Tim Anderson, with Original Strength. There's also a guy, Josh, on strength side.
Yep.
Original Strength I really like because it's a little bit more like approachable. I mean, Tim's like an incredible athlete, but you know, he's showing like really basic stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'll just be patient with it, be consistent, because it just takes time to unwind your body. But it's like the journey of what you'll learn, not just physically, but also how you'll open up emotionally, mentally, psychologically. As your body changes, all that other stuff changes too.
Yeah. Have you read the book, The Body Keeps the Score?
I haven't read that one specifically, but I've read other ones.
And I want to talk about movement because I don't want people to think about movement like, oh, well, I move my body, I go out and walk, which is a good thing.
It's amazing, yeah.
Yeah. But I want to dig deeper into that. But first, what is your opinion on The Body Keeps the Score, like the message from that book about emotions being stored in the body from injury?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So our emotions are going to get stored in the body. I mean, you've worked with a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, even just people listening out there, like start paying attention, looking at people's posture, and then kind of observing how you read them too. And you'll start to notice like some correlation, like somebody who's kind of holding themselves like this, they probably tend to be more anxious, like reactive.
Yep.
But yeah, so our body, it definitely will, as he says, it'll keep the score. It's going to store that stuff. And I mean, you and I have both experienced it as he's like all of a sudden you're getting worked on by somebody and something releases and you're just like crying or laughing and
Or
like
angry.
yeah.
I remember the one time, I forget what you were working on. You were like, dude, what is wrong with you? You were like red and like angry. I was like, yeah, I don't know what happened, but it just like shot through my body and I was sweating. I was like really, really angry.
Yeah.
But it was like anger, I think, in my ankles or my knee or my hip.
Here was the ankle.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Because no, I mean, we can't really look at like mind and body as being separate things. I mean,
No.
it's one and the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can kind of start looking at the whole fascial system, which is like what really holds our whole body together. As I think that's kind of what is kind of the neural, almost like matrix that stores a lot of the info.
Yeah. some people know about fascia. A lot of people don't.
Yeah.
I've talked with some people that I would think would know about fascia, and they're like, what's that?
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit more for people listening, what is fascia and kind of how it affects our body?
Yeah. So a great resource to look at is a book called Anatomy Trains. It helped me understand it even more than I already did. But he explains it in a way that's like really nice to understand and like how it's all connected. But basically, for all of you that eat meat, chicken, beef, like when you have certain cuts of beef, you'll feel that there's like that kind of white, kind of sticky stuff in there. It can be really chewy depending on how dense it gets. Like if you touch the side of your leg here, that kind of tight band, that's a rare area where the fascia gets really tight. But basically, like if I just look right underneath the skin here, like you'll see this thin, clear stuff, and that's the fascia.
Okay.
So the fascia is like, it literally it is the envelope. You can almost think of like saran wrap that's like wrapped around everything in your body.
Is it kind of like the casing around the sausage?
Yeah.
Okay.
But then like more complex than that. So like,
because it's all connected like everywhere through the body.
yeah, like if you grab your calf muscle here, there's like 4 or 5 different layers of muscle. So each layer is wrapped in a bag of fascia, basically.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And then all those fascia like will come together and then like form a tendon and then continue on into the next pair of muscles. So, in school we learned about like, oh, my bicep muscle does this. But when you start thinking about stuff like fascially, like as I move my arm like this, like the whole fascial system all the way in, like this whole line will start to get activated.
Okay.
So then like stuff with the shoulder, like a shoulder issue could be something like here in your bicep, could be here in something in your forearm, like the way the fascia's gotten bound up from not moving properly, like it starts to get stiff and hard, like it's just changing the way that it pulls on everything else and starts like putting too much pressure on your shoulder.
Okay.
For example.
Okay. Yeah, so it's all kind of interconnected, and
Yeah.
say, like you said, if it gets tight here, it could affect the shoulder, the ankle, whatever.
Yeah.
It just depends. And then you compound that by injury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get injured. That's why I like sprained ankles, even though you don't have pain anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I see that a lot in practice.
Yeah. I'm sure you do. Well, I know I've been in there plenty of
Yeah.
times for that. Let's get into movement
Yeah.
and why it's so important. And can we clarify movement a little bit so that people listening kind of get started on the right path with movement?
Yeah. So one, to start that off, a great way to just get started on the path of movement is just like, I'll have a video posted pretty quickly of just a joint mobility routine. So, it could be just like doing stuff like moving your wrists like that. But you're literally taking every joint and just putting it through its full range of motion.
Okay.
Super gentle, super easy, risk of injury is basically zero. But just doing that, you're going to help start connecting yourself back into your body again. Because most likely you haven't been moving that much, so maybe. So that information, your brain has not been receiving much information, like let's say from your wrist joint or your elbow joint, except for like the little bit of writing or typing or driving that you do. Mm-hmm. So as we start doing the full range, like now all these different receptors in the joint and then the muscles are sending information to the brain. So it's like, it almost starts to feel more like alive and awake.
Yep.
So yeah, that's a great way to just start exploring. So basically, I guess when we're saying movement, it's like there's a million ways or more that our body can move. Walking is fantastic. It is a great exercise, but one, it's just like we're walking like this. Our spine does get some motion, but there's so much more that can be done. And so then movement is like trying to explore all those different ways. You don't need to do anything super intense. Like the guy on strength side is doing like big rolls and all kinds of like big back arches, stuff like that. If that's not where you're at, it doesn't matter. Just start just doing little things.
Yeah. Josh is definitely
He can move really well.
an advanced movement guy for sure.
Yeah.
Himself, but like to your point, right? A lot of people.
But he started off stiff, and he says that in his videos.
Yeah,
You know, he'd done a lot of like bodybuilding type stuff, and his chest was stiff, his back was stiff,
Yep.
and he's opened all that up. So yeah, movement is just starting to explore like all the different ways your body can move, and just taking breaks from because we got to sit at computers. That's the reality for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Do you recommend a standing desk over a sitting desk?
I think a standing desk can be good. What's even like better than that is like stand on like a Bosu ball or something like that while you're standing at the standing desk.
Okay.
Because then you're like every once in a while you can like stand on one foot. So now like your muscles and stuff have to like be a little bit more engaged, and it's more challenging. And you'll actually find you get less fatigued from standing.
Okay. Now, do you flip the Bosa upside down so the ball part, so you have to like?
Yeah, that's
balance on
like
it?
that's gonna
Or
be
do you-
typically
or do
easier
you
for most
keep it
people.
like
No, so you stand on the flat side.
You stand on the flat side.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And balance on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Or a wobble board. Yeah, those are all different options. And people I know that do that, like they just get less fatigued from standing, because I know standing desk can get, your body just can get stiff.
Yeah.
But also just setting that timer and just taking 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and just taking some time to move.
Yeah.
Just explore some joint mobility stuff or do some core exercises, whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah. As long as you're using and moving the body,
Yeah.
that's what's important. And then, obviously studying if you want to take it to a deeper level and working with somebody like yourself,
Yeah.
which is highly recommended in my opinion.
No, it does. Because like getting the work done and then exploring the movement, it just opens up the doors a lot faster,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you can make a lot more progress.
Definitely. Now there's something that you specialize in that I think is really interesting, and that is infant
Yeah,
chiropractics.
Yeah.
In helping their nervous system and the neurology like kind of work together to get them to move properly.
Yeah. So like a 2.5-month-old that just came in as an example. So the work is all really gentle. It's like you're checking a tomato to like see if it's ripe. But a 2.5-month-old should be more than have enough strength to lay on their belly, maybe have arms here, but like hold their head up and move it around. He just wasn't there yet. So because of how we are in the womb, it's part of the reason we got to get worked on. Like, I see this, like if that's part of the reason I work with pregnant women as well. So basically, if mom has like tension patterns in her body, which we all do,
Yep.
that's going to create like tension through her abdomen, through the whole uterus. So then baby's going to get kind of like squished into a certain way. There's not much space in there as it is.
Yeah.
Especially as they grow.
Yep.
But baby will be kind of like stuck in a certain posture, and they can't move. So already, even in the womb, like there's patterns of tension that are starting to form with the baby.
Wow.
Because any of you, like just sit, like even just sitting in a chair for a period of time after you stand up, you're stiff.
Yeah.
So baby could be kind of like torque like this. So then when I'm doing with the work, it's like doing some of the work on the fascia to help that baby unwind, and helping unlock their areas where they're stiff, so that now he can and the mom texted and said like he's able to hold up his head.
Really?
Much better. Yeah. And then he slept for 10 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that was just with one session.
Yeah, it was with one session.
Incredible.
Because babies, like the great thing about them is like they respond super fast.
Yeah. They don't have.
Don't have a pattern that's been stuck there for 30 years.
Yes, exactly.
It's been a few months.
Yeah, they have no like real conscious awareness to resist against anything. They're just like, oh, I can move now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and that's the thing too. Yeah, because they're hardwired at that age. We are at that age to explore and to move.
Yeah.
That as soon as you give them ability to move, they will start using it right away.
Yeah.
I think that's a challenge for some adults. It's like to start exploring it.
Yeah. Again, right, it's just not a natural thing because, we have conscious awareness of what life's throwing at us. And it's like we get derailed
Yeah.
and get back into the circus of life instead of taking care of ourselves.
Yeah.
And as I'm getting older as well, one thing that I've realized is like, it doesn't matter how much money I've made. The only thing I care about is being healthy till the day I die.
Yeah.
And
However long that is.
however long that is, right? And being healthy, being mentally strong, and being able to move my body. I just would never want to ever be someone who's made a lot of money and can't enjoy it.
Yeah.
I never would want to live that way.
No.
Because
It sucks. I mean, you see the effects of it. And
yeah.
I mean, even the people listening, you can see how parents or grandparents, how they may or may not have taken care of themselves and how it's showing up.
Yeah. And they can barely get around.
Yeah.
I never, ever want that. I guess I'm subconsciously inspired by my grandfather. He was 104 years old.
Wow.
Still walking. He just had he like wouldn't wouldn't use a cane. I think he fell one time when he was like 98 or something. And finally we got him to use a cane. He's like, I'm not using the cane. That's for old people. He's like 98 years old saying that's for old people,
Nice.
And so I'd always seen this longevity in this lust for life. And he moved his body really well for 104.
Yeah.
And so I was like, man, I have to live that way. I can't, because I've seen the opposite. I've seen the decrepit old grandmother who was overweight, never did anything. Grandfather the same way. And I was like, I never want to live like that. It looks just miserable.
Yeah. And you don't have to like kill yourself to like achieve those goals. And as you were saying, part of like the movement stuff too is being mindful, paying attention as you're doing it. Mm-hmm. So like in some of my videos, like I'll show just doing stuff with the neck of like neck range of motion, but like you can kind of just go through it and just do it, or you can slow down a little bit and like really feel like, what am I doing? How does it change if I really look up with my eyes? And then
a lot of subtleties involved with it.
Yeah. And some of that stuff you can coach people on, but some of it, like, we just gotta start to explore the body and the movement. And
Yeah.
like, if I do this, how does that feel? And not just gonna be automatons as we're doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Really developing that awareness out.
Yeah.
I want to talk about you becoming a dad and getting married as well.
Yeah.
2 major life events for us as men, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was that like?
Definitely like, getting married, it starts, that's teaches you a sort responsibility, or just like, I think being more responsible and just like, when it's just yourself, you're just kind of like, oh, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it makes you want to work harder too, because you're like, okay, now there's, thinking about like family and, building more of a future together. All of that.
Responsibility for more people than just yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was like, great life lessons. Still gaining from that.
You and me both.
Yeah.
On the marriage side, for sure. Because, I know exactly what you're talking about, because it just me doing my thing.
Yeah.
Now I have this other person in my life that wants my attention and needs things as well. And it's a huge change for guys.
Yeah. But, a really powerful one, and just like becoming more mindful of, how we're showing up, being aware of how you're reacting to things, and starting to explore like, why am I reacting like this? Like whatever they may or may not have said or however I interpreted it, it's probably not, the reality.
Yep.
And, learning from that as well. So,
Yeah, those are deep, hard-learned lessons.
Yeah. You got to face stuff about yourself that you probably don't want to. And
Yep. Yeah. I mean, Anna and I are both in the process of kind of doing that right now, as we're kind of getting into the groove of being married, coming up on 3 years now. And
Congrats, man.
we're still learning, like, oh, okay, this subtlety here means this, and that subtlety here means that. And it's nonstop learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, paying attention to, what may have been like unspoken, or how what is being said may not actually be what's like being required. It's not always like black and white. There may be something else underlying that,
Yep.
pay more attention to.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like reading the text. What's the story underneath?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
And I know you work a lot in your coaching to help guys understand that stuff too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard for me some days even, because we're not naturally as guys attuned to that kind of subtlety. And it really takes a conscious effort for us to.
It does. And some days you're just tired.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like your mental energies have been used up a lot during the day. So you're just like, God.
Yeah. Don't want to deal with this, but yeah, we have to at the end of the day, because we made that commitment to do so and show up and be better men for our family and our wives. That's for sure.
Amen.
So what was it like becoming a dad?
I mean, that's probably like the most amazing experience ever. You don't realize how much you can like care for another human until you have a child.
Yeah.
And part of it's like, thinking about like, what kind of example do you want to set for your kid? And, thinking about like, how am I acting? Like, what am I doing?
Because they're just sponges.
Yeah.
Absorbing everything.
Yeah. But again, also showing up for that is like, movement's a big part of that. Like, the better, making sure that I'm taking care of myself as well, because then I have energy to put towards my kid, and
Yep.
just not getting annoyed about stupid stuff, or also modeling like being able to emotional regulation, which as we know, it's always a work in progress.
Always a work in progress.
But typically, like, doing movements, I always find that if I'm moving and I don't feel stiff, then I tend to be more flexible into of like how I'm emotionally regulating.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you find yourself physically more
Stiff, sluggish.
Okay, your reaction to emotional issues tends to be a little less than ideal.
Yeah. Just
And
getting angry and slamming a door, or
and if you're physically flexible, you tend to be a little bit more emotionally flexible.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's
Because
cool.
I think part of it's just like like being more physically loose, then my mind tends to be more relaxed. And we know that from like plenty of research that, the more we move, the more you're stimulating. Some call like proprioception, which is like if you close your eyes and touch your nose, like the reason you can do that is because of all these receptors in your muscles and your joints that let your brain know where it is in space. So you don't just slap your head.
Slap yourself in the face.
Yeah. And, somebody who's had a stroke, like they don't get to have that. And that's part of the reason they can't move well. But I do find that moving and like having more of that proprioception helps me to keep the mind more calm and just, react to stuff. Control my reactions more.
Good to know.
Take a breath.
Yeah, good to know. I mean, I know for me, I never kind of thought of it on a mobility level, but I just know from like an athletics level, the more I was being active, the more I was engaged in my sports, the calmer I was, and I could handle more of the emotional garbage in life, basically, a lot better and without much reaction to it. So that's really cool what you're talking about. Just literally mobility, flexibility allows you to have better emotional capabilities.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I think too, moving also, like going through some of that hard stuff, like as you're, be it men or women, as you're facing stuff about yourself or stuff that's in our subconscious, emotional holding that we've been doing. Like it lets you're okay with like dealing with the pain or discomfort of whatever emotion is coming up, because you've already dealt with it, and maybe on a physical level.
Yeah.
Just had to deal with this sucks, and I got to keep doing it.
Yep. Just keep working through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've got one more question for you.
Yeah.
What do you see men struggling with the most these days?
I mean, part of it, I think just from doing reading of like, listening to some of the stuff that you've talked about, the book Iron John, I think it's them kind of knowing what it is to be learning to be masculine, but not in a kind of typical like macho way of,
Yeah.
but how to be in touch with your emotions, and be in your body. Because I think men, women, however you classify yourselves, like we all need to move, and being strong is a great part of that. But I think for guys, it's like, I personally, like, it feels good when you do strength training. It feels good to be strong.
Yeah.
Not that I like want to go show that off or anything, but just like from day-to-day life, man, like just being able to do stuff and not injure yourself, it just feels good.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
To have that power. So,
and by moving, we're getting out of the head.
Yeah.
And we're getting into the body and starting to listen to what the body's actually telling us.
Yeah.
And tapping into that masculine intuition.
Yeah. So I think, what I see is like, at least in my practice with some of the guys, is like, they're just stiff. Like they just haven't moved well, even though they could be
like physically stiff.
Yeah, they're physically stiff. Needing to like get back in touch with their body. And I think as a society, that is something that's sorely missing. We do education, learning numbers and math and all that stuff, but I wish not just sports, but just learning about like how to move the body.
Yeah.
It'd be so cool if that was more of that.
I feel like Eastern cultures do that.
Yeah.
A lot more than we do.
And at least kids see it. I mean, I have no idea what it's like in China and Japan now, but a patient was just in Japan, and he said he was watching, like, there's a construction site, and literally like all the construction workers at the start of their shift, they go through like, I don't know what it was, but let's say a joint mobility routine. I'm like, how cool is that?
Yeah.
And it's like a nice brotherhood, assuming it's all guys on the work site. And then it's also, you're just like, why not do that when you're going to be doing physical labor? Like just gently warm up your body.
Yeah. And less opportunity for injury.
Yeah.
Yes, I have seen that in Japan. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I've seen kids, I haven't been to the school, but I've seen the kids like out in the playground, like doing their different exercises at like lunchtime or recess. And when I've been in Japan, and it's awesome. I'm like, this is so simple. It's so brilliant.
It is.
And I guess the American culture isn't ancient enough to have come to the realization that these are very important things to do for ourselves.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Do you find that the men that you work on have a disassociation to their body, like that it's just this thing that they can abuse and use in whatever?
Yeah. I mean, I think they're not connected with their body, a lot of them. And it's like they're kind of dragging around this like thing. I think they're not necessarily trying to abuse their body. Like in some ways they want to feel better. But it's also, they're not necessarily taking any action towards that.
Yeah.
And some of that, we got to take responsibility for ourselves, of course, but it's like if nobody's kind of modeling that for them, then like it's not even on your radar to start to bring consciousness or awareness to that. So like, it's great that one nice thing about this day and age is like, you can look on YouTube and start to learn stuff and just be exposed to like, oh, there's like all kinds of different movement I can do. And, you know, this sports isn't your thing. Hey, I get it. And you don't want to bodybuild, whatever. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
There's like so many different ways. So, but yes, I do see that, you know, guys do need to start taking the time and like just starting to move their body. And as they start to move it, they're going to get into it. And just that in and of itself will just help you feel more grounded and centered and
Yep. A little bit more alive.
yeah, more alive and also confident
Yeah.
in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because if all this is firing,
Yeah.
and we're feeling good about ourselves, yeah, we can take on the day. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it does make you feel good when you can move.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So where can people find you online?
So there's the website, which is www.brightstartchiropractic.com. And then also on YouTube. I don't do stuff on Instagram. At some point I probably will. But YouTube, you know, there's a lot of videos it's really just like sharing stuff about different ways to move your neck, different ways you can start to access your breathing, different ways you can start to do stuff with your hips, how to use a massage gun to start to open up stuff.
Yeah.
Different ways of like strengthening the core. And it's just all stuff that I've learned over the years that's been really helpful. And I see the people that do it and implement it. I can see that it's just like, it helps them as well. It's not like, I'm not saying, oh, do this because I did it. It's like, I'm testing this stuff with people too.
Yeah. Yeah. You are.
Yeah.
You are. That's
So
for sure.
it's not just me saying this will work because it worked for me. So you can start exploring some of that stuff. Email at info@brightstarchiropractic.com.
Cool. Yeah. I'll put all this in
Yeah.
the description as people can go find you as
Yeah.
well.
And
And you're in Los Angeles. Yeah.
practices in West LA.
Nice.
And one other thing I'm excited about too is the guy, athletic trainer Harrison Kuhn. He and I are putting together a program. We've shot everything. Now we're just putting it together for like people mid 60s, early 70s to start doing some stuff to like increase strength and mobility so that they can get up and down off the floor. Like with the grandkids, they can lift up an overhead carry-on and put it in the overhead compartment.
That's important. I mean, I fly a lot, as you know, and I see that all the time. People can't even young people can't lift their suitcase up to put it in the overhead storage. I'm like, what are you doing?
So yeah, we're excited about that. And just continue the work. So
That's cool.
that's where people can find me. So
Yeah, Harrison's great too. I remember meeting him. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, him and others have that's been a huge game changer where at 45 years old, I feel better now than I did at 35.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
Same. 100%. I agree with that totally.
So any age you are, you can make a change.
Yeah.
When I hear people say, I'm just getting old, it's like, no.
No, you're not.
It's like,
you can still move.
Yes, we will all die at some age, but we have a lot of choices we can make in our current time.
Yeah.
In this present moment that it can impact how we feel now and
At
10 years down the road.
8.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate it. It was awesome. All right.
Yes.
Well, that's it.
All right.